The wind whistled across the deserted battlefield, carrying with it the dead leaves of a forgotten season. The dawn sky was tinged a dark red, as if the earth itself foresaw the blood that was about to flow. A samurai advanced alone, his katana gleaming in the first rays, the blade polished like a mirror, each step calculated, each breath controlled. His gaze did not waver, and yet in the air he could sense the threat. Silhouettes loomed behind the hills, more numerous enemies ready to surround him, to assault him in the silence of dawn. He remembered Miyamoto Musashi's words. The true warrior does not seek victory, he imposes discipline on himself to be invincible. These words were not theoretical advice but a law of life. Victory, he believed, did not depend on the number of enemies, nor on the size of armies. It depended on self-control, clarity of mind, and precision of gesture. Every external confrontation is only the reflection of an internal battle. The samurai surveyed the terrain. Every hill, every rock, every tree could be an advantage or a trap. The enemies, in their arrogance, did not suspect that the real danger lay not in the blade, but in the warrior's mind. Sun Tzu would have smiled at this scene. Know the terrain, know the enemy, and you will never be defeated. He remembered the days of training when sand and rain shaped his companions. Every katana strike rehearsed to perfection, every fall overcome with perseverance, every silent sparring session forged not only the body but the soul. Muscles were nothing without determination. The weapon was nothing without discipline. This was what all samurai masters taught. The outer battle can only be won if the mind is sharper than the blade itself. The wind swirled around him, carrying dust and dried leaves, as if to remind him that nothing in this world is permanent, that everything moves, that everything changes. Samurai proverb. A man without honor is already dead, even if he breathes. The samurai then understood that every choice, every action in this life could be a matter of life or death for his honor. For honor is not measured in glory, but in fidelity to oneself, in constancy in the face of adversity. And you? What would you do if your honor depended on a single choice? Retreat or advance? Withdraw or strike with the precision of a katana? Do you realize that inaction can be more destructive than physical defeat? The true struggle is not measured in visible victories, but in the alignment of your actions with your values. The samurai took a deep breath. Every breath was discipline, every movement a preparation for the inevitable clash. The enemy, he thought, was counting on his fear, on his hesitation. But fear, for one who knows discipline, is only an empty echo. Every step he took was calculated, every movement of his body coordinated with his mind. Total concentration is not a state but a process, a constant practice. The mountains around him seemed motionless, but they too held lessons. They had withstood storms, wind, and rain, yet their imposing presence was never a guarantee of safety. Like a warrior, they were vulnerable to forces that knew how to strike at the right time. The samurai understood that patience and preparation were as essential as strength and courage. He then remembered the words of a forgotten master. He who fears falling will never fly. He who knows fear and embraces it becomes invincible. Fear never completely disappears, but it can be transformed into strength. The samurai knew that this moment, the precise moment before battle, was a test of his will and mastery. Everything he had learned, every drop of sweat poured into training, every hour spent sharpening his mind, was preparing him for this exact moment. He looked up and saw the enemy looming in the distance. He felt the weight of history in his own commitment. Every warrior who had marched before him, every master samurai, had faced this same choice: advance or retreat, act or hesitate. The battlefield was not just an expanse of land, but a mirror to the soul. So he moved forward. Not out of arrogance, not out of a desire for glory, but out of loyalty to himself. Each step was a silent declaration: I choose my path. And you, spectator facing your own battlefields, do you choose to retreat or to stand? Are you ready to face what seems impossible, simply because your honor and your spirit demand it? The real enemy is not in front of you, he is within you. He wears no armor, he wields no blade, and yet he has the power to destroy everything you build. Sun Tzu understood this. He who conquers others is strong. He who conquers himself is powerful. Close your eyes for a moment and listen to the silence. What do you hear? The sounds of the world fade, but the tumult of your mind becomes audible. Fear whispers in the recesses of your heart. Fear of failure, fear of what others think, fear of not being good enough. Doubt infiltrates your decisions, sows confusion, and delays action. Pride prevents you from recognizing your mistakes, makes you believe you are stronger than you really are. These invisible enemies are more formidable than all armies combined. Yamamoto Tsunetomo Don Lehagakure said, The samurai lives in death. There is no life without this consciousness. It's not about cultivating a morbid obsession with the end, but about recognizing the impermanence of everything around us and of every moment of our existence. Every breath is a reminder that time does not stop, that every moment lost fighting our own fears is a moment in which we diminish ourselves. Look in the mirror of your mind. What do you see? The battles you refuse to face, the words you dare not speak, the actions you delay out of fear or hesitation. Every warrior knows that to lose control of your mind is to lose the battle. The sharpest blade is useless if the hand that holds it trembles. The most brilliant strategy fails if the heart is filled with anguish. Imagine for a moment that every negative thought, every inner resistance, is an adversary on the battlefield. Fear attacks your senses, doubt paralyzes your decisions, pride isolates you in the false security of your ego. What do? Do you hide behind excuses, or do you face these invisible enemies with the courage you reserve for physical battle? The samurai knows that the greatest feat is not to defeat 100 enemies, but to conquer 100 fears. Awareness of death and the fragility of existence forges the spirit. There is no victory without inner discipline. Tsunetomo added, "Death is not to be feared, it is an instrument to sharpen life." Every decision, every moment of mental courage becomes an affirmation. I refuse to let my fears rule me. Take a moment to examine your own hesitations. What is holding you back? Fear of being judged, fear of failure, fear of the unknown? These obstacles are invisible, but their power is real. They can destroy you more surely than a sword in your hands. Then the real question arises, are you ready to die to your fears in order to be reborn stronger? Are you capable of confronting your illusions and your ego in absolute silence? The process isn't instantaneous. The inner battle takes place over time, every day, every breath, every decision. Like a warrior repeating his kata over and over again, the mind must train in vigilance and self-control. Every thought is a test. Will you give in to worry, or will you respond with calm and discernment? Every emotion is a battlefield: anxiety, anger, frustration. How do you react when they arise? Do you let them dominate you, or do you observe them with clarity and control? Silence, often feared, then becomes your ally. In the apparent void, the ego is revealed. The resistances you refuse to see come to light. Confronting yourself is not pleasant, but it is necessary. The greatest samurai masters knew that the soul of a warrior is forged in the fire of introspection, where no one is watching and no glory is to be expected. Are you able to be alone with your thoughts and not run away? The inner battle requires patience, discipline, and sometimes self-cruelty to push back against excuses and self-sabotage. For a warrior who masters his mind transforms his fears into strength, his doubts into insight, his pride into practical humility. And now, look at your life as an invisible battlefield. Every decision you refuse to make, every fear you allow to paralyze you, every moment you give in to worry or doubt, is a silent defeat. But there is incredible power in awareness. Recognizing your weaknesses is the first step toward mastering them. To recognize your fears is to subdue them. To recognize your ego is to tame it. So I ask you, are you ready to face your shadows, to dive into the silence of your mind and come back stronger, clearer, more precise in every movement of your life? Are you ready to understand that the greatest battle you will ever fight will never be visible to others, but will be decisive for your honor, your freedom, and your inner strength? A sword without strategy is just a shiny but useless piece of metal. Brute force, if not guided by intelligence and foresight, is doomed to failure. Miyamoto Musashi stated this with cutting clarity. Strategy is about understanding victory before the fight. These words don't just speak of the art of physical combat. They describe how every action in life must be planned, every decision weighed, every move thought out like an infinite game of chess. Strategy is the difference between acting blindly and acting with mastery, between wasting energy on impulse and focusing it to strike at the exact moment. Imagine for a moment a warrior on the battlefield. He is surrounded by an enemy army, but he knows not only the terrain, but also the habits of his adversaries. He knows where they will position themselves, when they will attack, what weaknesses they will expose. His victory is not the result of chance, nor of brute force. It stems from his ability to anticipate, to read the situation, and to act before the enemy understands what is happening. This is mental strategy. Confucius said, "A wise man thinks before he acts. A fool rushes into danger." Your life, your work, your art, every relationship, every project are a battlefield. Impulsive decisions, driven by emotion or fear, lead to silent failure. But a mind that calculates, that plans, that carefully measures its actions, can transform every obstacle into an opportunity. Are you able to think 3 steps ahead? To understand not only the movements of others but your own reactions, your habits, your impulses? History is replete with examples of master strategists who understood the value of anticipation and reflection. The samurai were not only skilled warriors with the sword, they were tacticians, philosophers of combat, capable of deciding in a split second the best move to survive and triumph. Their strategies were not limited to the battlefield. They guided every aspect of their daily lives. Mental preparation, anticipation of obstacles, and analysis of each situation and each opponent were integral parts of their existence. Imagine your life as a giant chessboard. Every person you meet, every choice you make, every event that occurs is a piece on that board. How will you move it? Will you act haphazardly or anticipate, plan, and strike with precision? A sharp mind is sharper than a katana. A prepared mind can outwit situations the body alone can never control. Even samurai masters knew that strength alone was not enough. Yamamoto Tsunetomo taught, "Victory belongs to the one who has thought more than the other." And this thinking isn't just intellectual. It involves emotional control, patience, the ability to observe, to listen, to understand the motivations and weaknesses of those around you. Every thought becomes a tool, every plan an invisible weapon. Ask yourself this question: are you capable of acting with the precision of a strategist even under pressure? Even when your emotions are screaming at you to flee or attack? True mental strategy lies not only in defeating others but in self-control. A disorganized mind is vulnerable. A mind that anticipates, calculates, and remains calm becomes invincible. Mental strategy isn't just about preparing for big battles. It applies to every action of daily life. How do you handle a difficult conversation? How do you decide on an investment, a career change, or even a simple but crucial move in your relationships? Every action must be thought through, every decision weighed like a piece on the chessboard of destiny. Musashi emphasized careful observation, observing without being observed, understanding without being understood. Mental strategy requires that you become both the architect and the player of the game. You must understand the invisible rules, the subtle movements of your environment, and know when to strike and when to wait. It is in this ability that true power lies. So look at your mind and ask yourself, are you reacting to chance or are you planning your moves with the precision of a master? Are you conscious of every decision, or are you letting events guide you like a rudderless ship? Are you able to transform your mind into a weapon sharper than a katana, capable of cutting through chaos and uncertainty? Mental strategy is not an option. It is a discipline. It is the mastery of thought, the ability to navigate a complex world with clarity and determination. Every moment, every action, every breath is an opportunity to perfect this mastery. He who understands this, he who observes, calculates, anticipates, becomes not only invincible on the external battlefield, but absolute master of his inner life and his destiny. The body and mind are sharpened by repetition. Seneca said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." The warrior trains every day even when no one is watching. He rehearses the perfect gesture, refines his posture, controls his breathing. Yamamoto Tsunetomo writes, "Fall 7 times, get up 8. Every day is a silent battle against oneself. Every morning is a test. Will you be true to your art, true to your honor?" Discipline is not a burden but a forge. It transforms the raw metal of will into a blade ready to cut through all hesitation. Beyond combat and discipline there is the way. Bushido is not just the ethic of the warrior, it is a spiritual path. Musashi, withdrawn into his cave, meditated on the meaning of life and death. True victory is not in defeating the other, but in defeating the illusion within oneself. The sword that kills is also the sword that saves. Everything depends on the spirit that wields it. The spiritual path consists of walking between life and death, victory and defeat, without losing one's center. Every breath becomes sacred, every movement an act of absolute consciousness. Are you ready to live as if every moment counts, to work hard even if no one cares? Are you ready to become invincible in your mind, even when the world is against you?